Okay, so last cycle we worked on a series of tools to create localized images. By localized images, we mean not only in terms of translations, but also other aspects that can be modified to be more customized to according to the culture, the language, or the region they're going to be used in. The idea of, the main driver for this was to create a localized image for Chinese users, for simplified Chinese users, because of the ISO we are producing already. But also the intention was to provide these tools in a way that logo teams, translation teams, and in general the community could use to create their own customized images. So at the end of the cycle, we got this set of tools working, and we had some people using them with different degrees of feedback. I've added some of the feedback on the wiki. Let me try to get back into it somewhere. But in general, the feedback was from my end, from what I understood, that for some people it worked well, but others wanted to modify or customize more aspects which were not supported by the tools. In my particular case, when I was testing the tools, they were just to the modifications I did was just to change the default language and the default the language packet would be installed, and for that they worked well. I mean, there was only one corner case which didn't work that well, but that was with a different locale. Let me try to see if I can put the feedback page on the notes. Also, the OEM team at Canonical used these tools initially to create a Chinese ISO, but they were needing more. They used this as a base, but they needed more modifications to do some more customizations. And before we go further, is there anyone in the room who had used the tools to create a localized image, or who have used other tools in the past to create customized images?
Well, we're using live build in commercial engineering Spring. So.
Right.
What's
So
the,
I think
the tool?
it's a set of scripts. The main package is called Ubuntu defaults image, I think, and they allow you to create a package which is used as a reference package which you can customize, and from that one you use another tool to create an image with the default you set in that package.
You actually created some localized ISOs before, but using other tools like GTK.
Right.
Right.
So you haven't been able to test it yet. I mean, did you know that before coming to this session?
Not these tools, but as I said, we used other tools, and we have great feedback on using these localized ISOs. So
Right.
you can get to know that.
Okay. So let me try to pull the. Sorry, it's not useful to have Unity breakers during the session. It's going to take me a while, but yeah.
Okay. You know what the package is?
If you
runs it.
If you go to the previous tab, Localized ISO Community, there might be a link to the second tab you've got open in there. There might be a link to the wiki page.
Is it the blue? This is the blueprint.
There's no linkage to the blueprint.
so far, you're not able to customize things down to like input methods?
Let me have a look at the wiki page to see if there's any.
Let's see.
Okay. So, just a second.
I forgot what it's called.
Could you go to my mouse has just logged out. Could you go to the wiki page here? Perhaps there's more information in there on the whole process. It's wiki.ubuntu.com.
Of course I have it.
All right. So if you scroll down in there, and I think we can take the rest of the session from here because I think there are some things that we need to address. So if you scroll down, just to wrap up on the name of the package, if you scroll down, I think it's mentioned on what is the workflow. And if you scroll down a bit on that on that particular
Where is this?
question, what is the workflow for creating a localized image? So.
Just allow CD localization. We see if we can start it. That's what you're looking for.
No, we were just looking for the name of the package.
It's a build script Ubuntu defaults image, and it comes from Ubuntu defaults builder package.
Yeah, that's the one. Ubuntu defaults builder. So that's the package you use to create the initial default package, which you will use as a base to create your ISO. But yeah, so I mean the thing what I'd like to do with this specification to see how we can take it further to the next cycle to expand its usage is basically to set up the scope on what we want to do as the next steps. I think thinking about it, I think for now a good step forward would be to raise awareness on these tools, make sure that translating teams, locals know about these tools and can start using them. Before we do that, we have to resolve a couple of questions on policy, which things can be changed and which things cannot, and also on testing, how to which degree these ISOs need to be tested, and what do we do with them when they've been tested? Where do we put them? So, I mean, starting with policy, one of the things we were talking about with Kate a while ago was what we call these images and where we put them when they're created. And I think Kate's suggestion was to put them into a list in Ubuntu.com, where there's actually already a list of localized images. I mean, what I want to make sure is that it is clear that there's a main official Ubuntu image, and there's a set of derivatives to which the support is basically community-based. One thing I want to make sure is that unless the images are completely tested, like using the whole process, same process that the official images the official images follow. Unless that happens, this is going to be a community-based effort. So that's one thing I'd like to make clear at this point. So when we're setting up the scope.
For naming scheme, I guess just the regular naming scheme already, but like at the end underscore ES for Spanish, ZH for Chinese. That's the proposal. Martin Petit, who created the tools for basically creating images that can be listed in Ubuntu.com, but
like as in community support based. But yeah, the name of the image and then the local they are
Yeah.
intended for.
Because I think right now with the Ubuntu, Chinese Ubuntu distro, there's no, the naming scheme is the same as a regular Ubuntu.
Right. But that's an official image like that we host on Ubuntu.com. These images, which will be in principle hosted by the community. So in that case, there was no clash with namespace, but for the community ones, we'd like to use a standard naming format.
Should the Chinese Ubuntu also have a naming scheme?
Sorry?
Should the Chinese Ubuntu also have a naming scheme?
No, that's what I meant. I mean, both are. We don't want to change the name for the official Ubuntu Chinese version because it's the official one. I mean, we don't want to have confusion with the ones created by locals. That's why we're choosing a naming scheme for the local ones.
I downloaded the Chinese Ubuntu the other day and I was confused. I wasn't sure if it was if it was Chinese Ubuntu or if I got a wrong torrent or something.
Right.
And then I put on a live USB and then it came up. So it took me after the download to only realize I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe the naming scheme for that would be good. But I understand where you're coming from now.
Yeah. I think that's the point because otherwise people might be thinking that this is a customized image where the Chinese image on Ubuntu.com is the official image, just set up for Chinese input methods and Chinese default local simplified Chinese.
Yeah.
So in terms of the next steps, sorry, I'm completely confused by my computer just refusing to work on the last day. So in terms of reaching out to community, we've had some feedback already, as I was saying, and it seems that the general feeling is that the images are working. It's just that some people would like to have further customizations. I think further customizations are right now out of the scope because that's not scheduled work on the desktop team. But what we can expand upon is basically the usage of these tools. So for that, I think one thing we could do is to reach out to local teams and translation teams to start using them for creating their localized images rather than using UCK or other tools, and make this to be the official way to create localized images.
Why not run a service like Offspring that the local teams can use to create their images? They don't have to learn new tools necessarily. They can just use an image building service. And I mean, I guess are all the customizations done like in live build or?
Yeah, I think it's mostly live build. Basically, you create a package, and
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, then the image creator calls live build with all this customization.
Is Offspring enabled for non-Ubuntu to access?
Yeah, Offspring is open source.
No, okay, but is there a server?
We don't have an instance. Canonical's not running an instance, and the only other instance that I know of is Lenaro's instance.
So what does I wasn't familiar with Offspring.
Offspring is basically a wrapper around image building tools, and the one that we use primarily is SlideBuild. And it comes with a web interface that connects to a master and then controls a build farm of workers that can build your images on different architectures and different projects simultaneously.
Right.
So it allows you to scale. So
I mean, could community just install an Offspring server?
yeah, they can run their own instance and link it to Launchpad. if we keep the live build configuration in Launchpad and you provide the link to it, and it will download the configuration and build the image on one of the builders for you, and
Right.
spit out an image which gets copied to a location of your choosing.
Right.
So maybe even, yeah, so maybe like geographically close logo teams could share an instance.
Right.
So they get the benefit of just one instance, and it's not too slow to transfer the images to where they're going to actually get published.
Right.
So, from what I'm gathering, for the official Chinese Ubuntu distro, they're not going to be changing any default applications such as the input method. That'll be up to local communities to do themselves.
Yeah, but the degree, I mean, you can basically change a few things, but we recommend, things like the default start page of Firefox. We
Yes.
recommend not to change it because it
That's fine. Core functionality, such as input, Chinese character input, which is essential for a user experience. Is that up for debate? I understand, leaving Banshee, or I guess if we switch to Rhythmbox, yes, leave Rhythmbox, and leave Firefox, and those applications that aren't essential to user experience. Well, they are, but at the same time, it doesn't promote functionality. Those can stay. And stuff like pinyin input and fonts and translations, those are up for change.
Yeah, we've got a list of things that can be changed. For example, keyboard layout, default applications, file association, Rhythmbox, Banshee, radio stations. I'm just reading the list. Installation of additional packages, internationalization support.
Wait, what is it?
Sorry?
Oh yeah.
You're reading off your laptop.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
Which do I have it?
It's on the,
It's right
exactly,
here.
yeah. So
And then
if
go
you
up.
scroll up a bit, yeah, that was just below the FAQ, right? Yeah, so these are the things that you can change. And there's additional restrictions on some items below. And I think some of the things we still need to do is to resolve policy issues around the things that we can change and the things that we cannot change or recommend changing.
Okay, this is what I was wondering.
Right. Yeah. So.
Because my action item for Chinese Ubuntu is to evaluate different input methods, and I've had troubles with iBus, which interferes with Java programs. It completely shuts you out of anything Java related. Doesn't shut you out. There's no keyboard functionality when it comes to Java. So iBus is not something that I think the best example would be, and I know this is a silly example, but using Minecraft. It's a video game, but it's entirely written in Java. And when iBus daemon is running, there's no keyboard functionality whatsoever.
Right.
And then skim, another input method, tends to crash when dealing with things such as Flash.
Right.
And there's a lot of websites in China that use Flash as music streaming.
Yeah.
I think Dalban. Dalban it uses Flash, and skim tends to crash when using Dalban.
Right.
And I was using, what else did I use? I think the best one I came across is FCITX. And it's also it's really bright blue, and it kind of looks like the QQ instant messenger program, so it's really cutesy, and it seems to fit like other applications within other websites and applications within China, such as Weibo. It's also very bright and blue and pretty. So, and it works within Java, doesn't crash in Flash.
Right.
So, stuff like that would be a great thing to change.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So where do your images get published today?
Right now they don't get published yet. I mean, what we did last cycle is to start basically, create the tools and ask a few people to test them. As far as I know, no one has published them yet, like on a on a public location. I myself, I created it locally to make sure it worked, and I tested it on a virtual machine. But the intention is that they get published somewhere hosted by community-hosted sites, for example. So yeah, they most probably won't be published on Canonical on Ubuntu.com or CD images or whatever. So the idea is that these ISOs are maintained by the community.
Yeah.
But I mean, Offspring, what you were mentioning before, would be really useful for them to basically create them and to automate the creation of this.
Yeah,
ISOs.
yeah. Great.
Yeah. Right, but I mean, for people to make to make it easy for people to find these images, it would be great for them to be listed somewhere in Ubuntu.com.
Right.
Is it possible to ask Canonical for some space or like empty space, so like an empty space where we can upload it or?
I think it's certainly possible. I think Kate would be the.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably raise this concern and see what kind of response.
We might be able to. I mean, I think there has been. I have to be careful because I haven't followed the conversation closely, but I think there has been some talk about a public instance of Offspring, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
But it's something worth asking.
Yeah.
The other thing that's very new is Stefan gave me a demonstration earlier today of the new ISO tracker.
The ISO tracker?
New ISO tracker interface will be looking at using control file. And that has potential abilities to be able to let developers know register things on.
Oh, cool.
Or at least working with people. I don't know what interfaces are. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah.
Maybe not for this side.
Not for the site.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be later in the cycle.
Yeah,
Well,
later in
it-
the cycle.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, in the same cycle, you're really not implementing it. But there's, during this release entire cycle, there may be the capability
Mhm.
available.
Right,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe not? No.
I
Maybe
think
not, okay,
We
fine.
need to create, this is a new release of the tool, so we need to put it to this cycle, try to use it that first, and then that's a good
It'd be cool if you could upload this to the store
Something can use.
or to the software center.
right.
That'd be nice.
Okay,
That is
that's
good.
that's a possibility.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in terms of testing, yeah, I was talking to John this earlier. I think for this cycle it would be best to keep the scope relatively. I mean, broaden the scope to the ISO tracker and perhaps work on a set of guidelines to test localized images, because I think it might be a good idea if the ISO tracker, the new ISO tracker gets implemented, but I think at this point we don't have that many resources, or we don't have much of a community yet around this localized image initiative. So I think, in terms of testing,
The guidelines for testing localized images, we're talking like wiki page, are we talking, so like or facts, or like, ask them to, or,
I think I'd use either the wiki or another place which is easily reachable by tester. I mean, where do people doing tests go to? Is there any particular web page, qa.ubuntu.com, for example, or?
Page on 3.ubuntu.com.
Yeah. So do you think we could list a set of recommendations there and then test cases on the wiki, or everything in just one place, or how do you think? What do you think the best place would be?
To set a recommendation and guidelines on the wiki,
Mhm.
and this case on the test case repository. So we are all the test case. Ubuntu or localized image of Ubuntu, so we can reuse the test case of Ubuntu.
Right.
And a specific test case for the localized image.
Okay.
And we go back to our answer.
Okay. So shall we go to work item? I mean, I can help you on that, but I will need some guidance. Can I put the work item on you to think about the set of guidelines and publish them on keywords.ubuntu.com?
Sorry.
Within that,
Anyway, if you wish.
Sorry?
within that, what about like a link redirecting to the local group that's actually running it, such as their IRC channel, so they can ask like within a live chat. I know like.
Yeah, but I think we're thinking more about general guidelines that every team can use, like every team can use, not particular guidelines for a particular image. So we've been talking about people going to keyway.ubuntu.com and finding a list of things that they need to test.
This would be the guideline to test on
Yeah.
Because the specificities of the localized function.
And then before it's uploaded, or before it's sent out.
No, that would be. I mean, the idea is that someone creates the image and then they follow. They or someone else follows these guidelines to test them.
When they make it available to their
Yeah.
people that they want to advertise it to.
Okay. I'll see after.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
So, and in terms of having finished the test, what do you think would be the best way to provide a sign-off or to have a list of images that have been tested? Just a wiki page or?
I'd say at this point in time, it's probably going to be a wiki page, not the top level ones. We notice the logo is a lower quality associated with components. We have some lower tracking quality we want to have. So it's, so I don't think we can put it up. I think it's going to have to be community sourced and community supported spread.
Yeah.
The image is available. And then the question is, until we know that we've got a way of then recording and testing results, we might not put up on the Ubuntu site.
Right. Right.
So looking, or I'd like to register on Wiki Facebook with image available or something like that. But if I don't want to recognize derivative, localized derivative, I want to know some quality associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there any template I mean, I'd be happy to create that page, but is there any template we can use to create this list of images or any
I think
existing
we've got it
page?
actually right now. There was the localized image rollout thing. We have already.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has all the information on the,
Right.
that little table.
All right, so expand that table to say, yeah, it's been tested, or...
Yeah, just like, like I say, at this point in time, just basically, here's where, here's the language, here's who's created it, here's the contact for it, here's where it's coming from, and, who tested it or who signed off on it. I think that's all we can do at this point in time to recognize the tracking really.
Mm-hmm. So I'll put an action on me to expand the table on localized.
What happens when you like would run like the Ubuntu friendly client on a localized image? Do you know? This would be kind of useful to know.
It's a remix of the same packages, okay? As long as they have customized something that's, and the list of what they can customize should not affect necessarily behavior.
We were just talking about
until
like
we
input
provide-
devices, for example.
Yeah.
So it would be presumptuous to say that the mainstream of English version of Ubuntu or whatever
Mhm.
But
would work on a Chinese laptop or some derivative of that.
the keyboards don't differ too much as far as like where the letters are placed. And I don't see how, unless it's like a different device such as like a Wacom or I don't see how that would alter anything, because a Chinese keyboard is almost the same as an English keyboard.
Actually,
Well, not too much different. It's just letters are different places. I know Japanese keyboards are through the roof, but it can still pass the friendly. My friend got a Japanese keyboard and it passed, so there's no difference. It's just, I think the friendly Ubuntu thing, just testing whether you can press a key and letters come out.
Right.
So
So there wouldn't be an added benefit then to distinguish like this was tested on a localized version.
yeah, I don't think it would differentiate at all.
Right.
Unless someone else thinks there will be. I can't think of anything.
I think this is a learning section. Because
Yeah.
I think realistically, people will want to create these for the LTS releases. And I suspect they can work on it right now with what we just put out, which is there, and start piloting and learning. I think the word was something realistically.
Yeah. Okay. So that gives us a good idea on how we can test them and what we can do this cycle. The other, sorry.
Yeah, that was the link there. It was not all those contacts. I was wrong. If you look at that page, you'll see.
Yeah.
That was the initial brainstorming we did before.
Okay. So the other aspect for me that was important to discuss in this session was policy, and policy two aspects. The first aspect where these ISOs will be hosted with where these ISOs will be hosted, and we've been discussing that they will be hosted by the community. It will be hosted on their sites. The other aspect is where we list those images so that they can be easily be found. And some time ago, Kate made a suggestion to put them on Ubuntu.com so that the images that have been tested and signed off can be listed in there, which would be also like more of a reward for the community to encourage them to work on testing and making sure that they are quality images.
Start with the
Start
local,
with,
local pages.
Yeah, start with the local pages, and then when we have the ability to track the ISO and have someone we have signed off on a little test, then they can go onto the site. So they could go on the local, they could go on the wiki right now. But we want to make sure that we have a record that they've tested, they've made it to the same quality as someone who run tests, maybe they ask a question, right?
And a launch pad page.
And launch pad page associated possibly with it. And once we've got that, then we can probably move them up onto the budget.com site.
Yeah, and we'll have a maintainer for each one, a maintainer on a launchpad page,
Yeah.
as well as is that already okay?
So if you click on the localized image contacts link,
Oh, yeah,
you'll see
along with,
who created it, where is it, translation contact, translation sign-off date, testing to contact, testing to sign-off date.
Yeah.
If you can get all that information, people should have some degree of comfort with it. And there's actually, if you scroll down, there's actually an image or two down there right now.
So another question: when do you think testing should start for these images, or when do you think what would be the last milestone to right? I'm going to try to formulate it in a way that's understandable. So what would be for you the last milestone, the latest milestone where people should provide the sign-off?
I would say realistically what should be done, these are independent of the release process.
Right.
So what should be done is whenever people get around to it, they can basically take our released image afterwards and do it.
Right.
They can play with early versions if they want and post the results there for everybody to know about.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't have to manage it, I think, directly. I think as long as we're sort of helping them get things into things, they don't have time for the release schedule.
Yeah, but I think it would be interesting. I mean, at least for them to be able to publish, to release it on Ubuntu.com if we decide that that's the way to do it, just before release. So it might be interesting to have give them the time window between release candidate and candidate, or just the week after that, something like
Until we
that.
can get them tested and the testing signed off.
Sorry?
Until we can get them tested and signed off, we can't list them up there.
I guess,
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to find.
We can list them up there afterwards, and after they've been tested. Like I say, it's asynchronous, it doesn't need to be tied to the release schedule.
Right.
If you want to, like I say, someone wants to take a beta image and make a localized image out of it for people to test in that localized environment, that can be done anytime, and I'd say probably by broadcasting communications, probably the way to do it rather than. Like I say, I can make mention of the release notes that, see these local communities because they've got images,
Right.
but I don't think we can point people at their images because it's not officially recognized.
Right.
So we're going to have to feel, like I say, if we have the ISO tracker, I'd be happy.
Right, so you're saying that until we don't have an ISO tracker, we shouldn't list them on Ubuntu.com?
Until we have the ISO tracker,
Right.
until we have results on the ISO tracker. That's the gate, that will be the gate for, because the people are signing up, like say, what it is that they've actually done,
Right.
we don't have a record of.
And I guess what would be considered a viable distro would be when it's all the keyboard method inputs and languages are done. Until then, if those language issues aren't finalized, then it doesn't go up as a or pseudo-official release.
Right, yeah.
So that could be another, I guess, milestone.
Okay. All right, let me have a look at the notes again. So, in the other sites, so in terms of policy again, on things that can be changed and cannot be changed. I mean, we're already making some recommendations on the localized images rollout wiki page. There are a couple of things which are still not very clear, and that's what we can do with web browser bookmarks and web browser default search engine. There's something that right now it can be technically changed using the tools, but it's something that we're not too clear on. Kate, do you think that would be an option for you to find out what we do in terms of recommendation for changing the web browser bookmarks and the default search engine?
So, what you look so.
Don't worry.
No, I'm trying to think. What you want to do is, if someone types in the French image into the top level of Ubuntu search, it should basically point them at the wiki page that has a link to them.
No. I'm thinking that now in terms of modifications that you can do to an ISO. One of the things you can do at the technical level using the tools is changing the start page, changing the default search engine and changing the bookmarks. But this was also unclear, whether we should allow this or not. And I think there's some policy discussions that need to be followed
There are policy
to find
discussions
out.
that need to be followed up. I would assign that one to Jason.
Right.
So
Okay.
that one to Jason, I'll help them.
Okay.
So basically clarification on policy on that, because it's a desktop issue. Really.
What if some countries actively, like the government actively is involved within open source, such as Brazil, and they have a VR office? What if the local community would prefer to have VR office over what is default LibreOffice? Because that is what's government sponsored.
That's a good question. I think what we do, I think what we recommend right now is not to change the default applications, but rather to add new ones. But in this case, it would be replacing a default application. What's the difference with VR Office and LibreOffice? Is it
VR Office is a fork of OpenOffice. It's been a fork for like 4 or 5 years.
right?
And it's actually been actively developed by the Brazilian office what they were doing was, since a lot of people couldn't afford Microsoft products, Brazil was actively involved in open source to give out free office software to schools and communities and
Right.
underprivileged families, so that it was like an insult to Microsoft. Oh, you won't let us do our own thing, so they developed VR Office and we're giving them out like candy in schools and everything.
Yeah.
So it's been developed by Brazil. So, and
Portuguese and
Right.
it's locally
Right.
developed and it's localized.
Yeah, I think in this case though it would be outside the scope of the tools, because that would mean basically creating an image with an application that's not in the default install, for which you wouldn't get security updates in the same way you receive security updates for the normal packages. And I think that brings lots of new implications. I think in this particular case, then using some other image generators might be the best way to
How
go.
does the Brazilian government or whatever, do they distribute updates to the office?
I only read a few articles about it and the effectiveness of the project as far as like how it's maintained and everything. Sorry to say, I don't really know, to be honest.
Well, because if they have their own security update mechanism, then that's just, and you want it to replace LibreOffice, you could quite easily live build configuration and just point to the sources, the update server for that particular software.
Right. Yeah, but I think in this case though, it is nothing. I mean, since there's not going to be work done on this particular tools this cycle,
Yep.
they should be using another method as the one you were describing, or perhaps another image generator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put the link on ISC,
Okay. Cool.
Look at this. If
but it's important.
they have a VDN.
So Google Translate.
Arc, love Arc.
Oops. I'll go to Irish.
No, it says it's in. You want to change it from.
I know. Oh wait, what?
Yeah, there's a good suggestion here for an action to move the FAQ information to Ask Ubuntu. I think it might be a good idea to create a question on Ask Ubuntu and direct people to the wiki, but I think the fact itself should be living in wiki.ubuntu.com. But that's a good idea. I mean, I can add an action for me to create a question. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
I'm pretty sure there's other community-driven projects. I mean, VR Office can't be the only one. And if a community would prefer a core application that replaces one of the defaults, then that might be one of the
So
exceptions.
there's
It's in the universe.
it's going to be an element.
Oh,
It's going to be an element of policy. We have the concept of derivatives versus remixes versus other things, and so we have elements of mature understanding support, and so there's going to be policy decision. I think most about what we're doing when things like that happen.
Yeah.
So this is probably part of the Jason space.
So you can get it in the universe, I guess.
Yeah, I think the main idea is to have a standard tool to use the standard Ubuntu packages.
It's BR Office in universe.
It is.
Yeah.
So they can just do, so that's probably what they do anyhow. They probably
So if it
they
moved
get
into
the-
main, it wouldn't be, like say, it's what you're including in the universe main, it's like
Or I guess just a Brazilian local distro with it.
a.
And then you can have them point to VR Office for installation after.
So the just got to translate again. The install goes right to LibreOffice from BR Office.
Oh, really? I guess the project's maybe.
Because if I search VR Office, like in my NATLink install, I don't have it. Not even in the universe. If I look at packages in ubuntu.com, there's only for Maverick was the last one.
Oh, okay. So it must be.
Integrated into LibreOffice. Yes.
It's on Office page.
Sorry. Maybe it's just, only into Maverick. There was no like NATLink, nothing on yours.
Okay, then I guess that's out of question.
All right, so we've got 5 minutes, I think. think, does it finish at
Because they joined.
5:2 or? Anyway, let's just quickly go through the actions to make sure that they match the scope we set up. I mean, the scope basically for this cycle, for me, as I say, was to to connect local teams to these tools and to connect people to each localized version, to basically clarify the policy and to set up a limited scope for testing. We'd like to have full integration in the ISO tracker, but that probably won't happen in this cycle. So we should have something in place for people to test. So we've got an action to reach out to local teams with tools and education. So basically raise awareness on these tools. Related to that, I'll create a question on Ask Ubuntu and redirect to the FAQ we've got on the wiki. Set up classroom training on how to use the tool. I'm wondering if this could be something that can be done like as part of Ubuntu Open Week session on how to create localized images, but I'm not too sure. I think I'll take this out from the list of actions and I'll put it as an idea. Then with Jean-Baptiste's help, we'll create a page on qa.ubuntu.com with recommendations and guidelines on how to test localized images. And I'll create a list or expand the table on the existing wiki page we've got to basically include test information to track who's doing the tests for these images. And then I'll put an action on me to follow up with Jason rather than assigning the action to Jason.
So one nice feature about Offspring is that you can publish releases. So if you have a test candidate that you want to use to do testing with, Launchpad projects understand that concept. So that might help.
So how would they actually use it? I mean, what would be the workflow for creating it for a local team to create a localized image with Offspring?
Well, this is pretty much, I don't actually have access to Lunar and I can't show you our instance.
All right, yeah, just a high level.
But
would be really helpful.
you basically go to like a website. This is the default skin. You can change the header, whatever you want. But you go to here. You would go to projects. You set up your project. If this was like a region, if like this was Europe, you would set up your project for France or whatever.
Right.
And there would be a button down here. So it's a project. Click that. You fill out all your information. One of the things you would fill out is a location to your live build config. And that's where you would specify all your
modifications.
All your modifications for the actual installer. Obviously, you'd be responsible for making any changes to the packages themselves.
Yeah.
And then you would just it would do daily builds. You can do on-demand building. You just literally press a button, build. It would go off into the farm, build that image, and then come back and have like a build results page, which would give you access to the actual build log.
Right.
The location of the build asset or the installer asset that you generated, which is either I think a DD image or an ISO. And then if you're and in that table there, so it shows you all your builds. You can select builds and say, I want to make this. I want to post this as a release.
Right.
And then that would get designated. It would get copied to somewhere special, so it didn't get leaked. Because images will be deleted every n number of days, whatever policy you define. And then from that point on, whatever your testing processes can take images from that location, and then install systems, run the tests, or whatever you need to do. But
yeah, I think that would be it would be a good idea to point people to Offspring to basically is the process of creating the images, but rather perhaps like just a recommendation as like here's what you can use to expand further on this order.
I'd also suggest we won't be going forward with the Offspring recommendation and provide training on how to set up Offspring.
Oh, definitely. I'd be really happy to provide some training.
I've heard a rumor that it might be a Juju charm or Localized or both.
Yeah, I'm thinking about writing the charm for Offspring. So making it, because it's right now it is actually fairly difficult to set up.
Well, we've done it twice, so we can do it more.
Done it 3 times. Well, I've done
We've
it.
done it 3 times, but not twice. We have 2 instances.
Alright. So what's your IRC?
Tim RC. And you can always bug Cody-Somerville.
Alright. Alright, I think that gives us a good set of steps to get started on this, and then to see this cycle, how it works out, and then decide whether we want to expand more on this next cycle. So, thank you everyone.
Thanks.